Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. So, not surprisingly, this is a different type of closing than what we are used to, and one that we would normally have at the legislative conference. You know, we have just virtually made our voices heard on Capitol Hill, and over the past 2 days, you helped get this year's legislative program off to a really excellent start. And I want to thank everybody for that. Now, while we still wish we could have a more traditional in-person legislative conference, I really and truly hope that you found this 2-day event useful and effective for raising the issues of federal employees and making your voices heard through NTEU's Legislative Action Center. Grassroots activity by NTEU members is really critical to the success of our legislative and political programs. Now, look, I know this pandemic has had a grave impact on the lives of absolutely all of us, on our families, our work life, heck, I mean, even our way of life. And I appreciate that even through these extraordinarily difficult challenges, so many of you have shown up. And you've shown up to ensure that our priorities have not gotten lost. You showed up to ensure that our members of Congress and their staffs still heard from NTEU. Now, during the opening session, you were asked to take action by sending letters and making calls to Congress through NTEU's Legislative Action Center. Now, the goal of this effort really was to ensure that Congress heard from NTEU members and learned about NTEU and our legislative priority issues. And you all heard that call. And I want you, everybody, we got some important information coming up here. And I am pleased to tell you that just in these last couple of days, you made more than 4,500 contacts with Congress. Folks, that is extraordinary. It's huge. Give yourselves a big round of applause, because that is really outstanding. And I want to thank everybody for leaping into action. You know, we see the results of those efforts, and I will tell you that I know your members of Congress will as well. Now, I know many of you have continued to work to build relationships and educate members of Congress through both our legislative grassroots and political programs virtually throughout this pandemic, working, you know, not only to preserve, but to build powerful congressional relationships. And I will tell you, for that, I am truly grateful. Through our NTEU, our Grassroots is Local program, many of you have continued to meet with members of Congress and their staffs virtually. You write to them, you call them, maybe even you get on a Zoom with them. And you know how to tell our stories, and you do such great work to ensure that the voices of federal employees are heard loud and clear. Many of you are organizing and taking these grassroots actions at your chapters throughout the year, and I ask that you continue to conduct letter writing campaigns and hosting virtual events where your membership can build camaraderie and come together to get involved in NTEU's grassroots efforts. You know, I'll tell you, year after year, I am just humbled and grateful to know that NTEU can count on every single one of you to leverage your congressional relationships to lead us to great legislative successes. Our chapters, whether they be large or small, continue to be more and more engaged in our efforts at all levels. So some of you are now hosting virtual lunch and learns to better educate your membership on legislative issues. You're engaging through social media with your chapter web pages, Facebook pages, maybe your Twitter accounts, and you're communicating with your membership through chapter newsletters, and you're doing so much more. There are so many examples of the grassroots work that you all do. I mean, so many. And I want to thank you all for that. Please keep up this truly important work. So now when you leave this virtual event, I'd like to ask you to do a little bit of grassroots homework. I bet not one person on here thought that they're going to show up to an NTEU event like this and you're going to get homework. But you know, when speaking with your membership, please remind them of how important and effective our grassroots work is, and encourage them to engage in NTEU's grassroots alerts and outreach efforts. Remind them that when they hear from NTEU, it's really, really critical. It's important to organize, mobilize, and respond. You know, in the weeks and the months ahead, it will be crucial that all chapters continue to educate our members, as well as your members of Congress, on the legislative issues that we've been focusing on these past 2 days. You know, it's essential that your senators and representatives continue to hear from you, that they continue to hear from all of us, to continue to have a strong impact and reinforce our message. We're going to be asking you to continue these grassroots efforts with your chapters so your members of Congress know just how deeply their federal employee constituents care about these issues. In my estimation, an important part of being an NTEU leader is educating and engaging our membership. And many of you are doing such an outstanding job already with this. Nevertheless, I'm going to ask that you all make the NTEU, our Grassroots is Local campaign, a priority in your chapters. So to learn more about our program, please reach out to Stacey Casimiro, NTEU's Director of Legislative Grassroots and Operations. I also want to share, you know, look, well, let me say this. Let me say it this way. It's always good to bring an NTEU event to a close with some really great news. And so I'm really excited to be able to do that right now here today. So let me give you some good TPAC news. As you all know, last night we held our very first ever TPAC virtual fundraiser. And remember, I told everybody that our goal was to raise $5,000 during our grassroots event these couple of days. Now, in fact, drum roll please, we raised $7,715 for TPAC this week. All I can say is thank you. Well, actually, I could say a whole lot more, but we're going to leave it at thank you for your absolutely generous support. And I want to thank also all of you who participated in last night's event. So finally, before we close, I want to take a moment to thank the NTEU staff for making this virtual event such a success. NTEU staff members from our legislative, public relations, and operations departments have worked hard to ensure that this event ran smoothly and that your time was productive. This event could not have happened without every single one of them, so please join me in thanking them, and let's give them a hand. And so with that, I'm going to bring to close the 2021 Legislative Grassroots event. I thank you all for signing up, for showing up, and hopefully it will not be very long before we can all get together in the same hotel ballroom or wherever we're able to get together face to face to see each other in person again. So thank you again, everybody, for everything that you've done this week, for all the calls and reaching out to Congress, for the TPAC contributions. Everything was outstanding. Thank you. So everybody, please have a good rest of the day, a good rest of the week, and please stay safe. Thank you, everybody.